We were making this movie, we thought it was utterly ridiculous and completely stupid, and we had a ball making it. We had a very sort of loose script, and then we kind of came up with ridiculous ideas, like, what if we throw him over the edge of the balcony? That'd be a good idea. And so it was like, yeah, let's do that. And well, what if the tide comes in and washes him out to sea? Yeah, let's do that. So it was all very kind of on the fly. And often when you do movies like that are on the fly, you think they're really funny while you're doing it, but it's sort of an inside joke, and it's not funny at all when you're actually watching it. But I think the movie somehow turned out to be quite funny and stupid in its own way. And I don't think there's a day goes by that people don't come up to me and kind of go, hey, where's Bernie? You know, truck drivers particularly love Weekend at Bernie's. I get a lot of truck drivers rolling down their windows, screaming out, hey, Andy, where's Bernie? Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, it was great fun to do, and then we made the terrible mistake of doing a second one, which I blocked out, and I hope all you will too. But the writer came up with an idea, you know, they want us to do a second one, and they want us to do it down in the Caribbean for 3 months. And we're all like, yeah, that's a great idea. But we don't have a script, and I'm like, we didn't the first time, it'll be fine. So anyway, but I think the first one sort of holds up in its own weird, sort of odd way. But there's a question, yes, sir.
I was wondering who from like your movie days, who do you still stay in touch with? Do you still like talk to all the people, your co-stars? Like,
yeah, it's a funny thing, you know, the whole Brat Pack thing. At the time, it was, it's become this sort of iconic, affectionate term representing this sort of, you know, glossy golden era of, you know, 80s film, and that's lovely. But at the time, the Brat Pack was a very pejorative, sort of negative, nasty term. You know, it was originally by a writer for a magazine called New York Magazine, was doing an interview with Emilio Estevez and followed Emilio around. And Emilio had the bright idea of taking the writer out drinking, which is probably never, you know, publicists nowadays would never let their client do that. And for reasons just like the Brat Pack. And so Emilio thought it would be a better idea if he got some of his buddies to go drinking with him and the writer. And so the writer was a contemporary, I think, of them, and just was really resentful that these young guys had the world by the tail, and he had to chase around after them and write about them. And so he wrote a really nasty article called them the Brat Pack. And I remember it was on the cover of New York Magazine, and it was a picture from St. Elmo's Fire. We were making that at the time. And there was a picture of Emilio Estevez and Rob Lowe and Judd Nelson and my elbow. And they said that I would never be in the Brat Pack because I wasn't kind of cool enough and hip enough, and I wasn't, you know. And of course, that's been all true. Scene, and they put a really bad wig on my head. So I think if they thought we'd still be talking about the movie 25 years later, they would have paid for a better wig, you know. And it's a lot of wig acting, because I just look so forlorn with that bad wig on my head. And yeah, that's what whenever I think of the end of Pretty, people always talk about and quote it to me, and all I think about is that silly sort of dead rodent that was on my head. So, but sometimes we hang around and stay in touch, but I think everyone sort of has lives and moves on. And you also have to keep in mind, those were things, you know, it was a movie, you do a movie for like 8 weeks, 10 weeks, and then you sort of go on. It's frozen there in time for people watching it, but if you're doing it, you go on to other things, sort of, you know. But I mean, those movies are interesting. They also weren't the A movies of the time. You know, they weren't people weren't really fighting to get in a movie about people who drag a dead body around, you know what I mean? Or a guy who kisses a mannequin, you know what I mean? They weren't necessarily the real serious films that, you know, they wanted to be in movies like Falcon and the Snowman or something, which now people are like, what? You know, but at the time they were very, so, you know, they've taken on these iconic things in these movies, which is lovely. It's one, you know, people have also asked me, has nothing to do with your question. I'll just keep talking in case, unless someone else stands up. But then I'll shut up and let this lady have a chance. But you know, people have said, why are those movies so popular? And I think the movies are popular because it was the mid-'80s, right? And what was happening in the mid-'80s was that VCR became available for the first time. And people that were renting movies were young people, and the movies that young people were renting were those movies. So suddenly you could take us home in a way that you could never have done that before. You'd see a movie once, maybe twice, and then a couple of years later it's on Sunday afternoon on Channel 9. You know, and suddenly people could watch it 10, 15 times and take ownership of us in a way. And so that's why to most of the women in this room, I'll forever be 22 years old. You know? So, anyway, hi.
that's actually a wonderful segue to my question, because you look fabulous, and I was just
I'm far away.
No. But I was just wondering if you had a creepy, aging
dear, I am up there.
self-portrait of yourself hidden in your attic somewhere.
Yeah, I do, yeah. We're selling that down at the table downstairs. Thank you.
Anyone else? Hello.
Hi, I'm not a Philadelphia native, but what I first knew of Philadelphia was Mannequin.
Yeah.
Usually the first thing everyone from Iowa who comes here wants to see is where you filmed the Mannequin.
Yeah, Wanamaker's right down the street.
Right down the street, so we spent a day there. What is your favorite memory of Philadelphia, like a place that you like to go to? Do you have, or you just want to get out here?
No, I love Philadelphia. I come fairly often. I was in Wanamaker's about 6 months ago. We're now at Macy's. And I find it actually a little sad because, you know, there's some of the upper floors are all closed down because a store like that is a dinosaur now, you know, they don't... But, I mean, we lived like vampires when we did that movie because we got into Wanamaker's every night when it closed at 7 o'clock at night and shot till 7 o'clock in the morning. And just because that was the only time we could get in the store. So we were just complete vampires. We were living completely backwards. And, you know, we were running around the store. That was another one of those, it's like, is this movie any good? I mean, I'm kissing a mannequin. Is this a career ender? You know? I do remember the first time I read the script, I thought this is a really delightful, lovely, sort of open-hearted movie. And then the second time I read the script, I thought, am I out of my mind? Couldn't do it. But I think the movie actually is quite a lovely movie, and it's very innocent, and doesn't have a cynical bone in its body. And I think that's very rare in movies. So, I mean, my memories of Philly are always being on waking up at sunset and going to bed at dawn. That's always my memory of Philly, and eating cheesesteaks at dawn. You know?
Okay.
Yes, I got a question here. When you were making that Weekend at Bernie's, how many Bernies did they have? I know they had a Mannequin. Did they destroy that and have to make another one, or did that one?
No, we just had one actor. He was plenty. You know, we had one dummy and Terry. You know, and Terry did a lot of it. And then Terry sort of fell and slipped some disc, and he started taking a lot of prescription Percocet. And, you know, and so we used the dummy a lot more then. But no, Terry did most of it, and then we just had a dummy for like at the end of the movie when he's, I don't want to, spoiler alert, when he's in the water at the end, we used a dummy for a bit of it. But, yeah, it was mostly Terry.
All right, thank you very much. It was a great movie. It's totally awesome, and I can't wait to see it.